And today I have a guest, and she'll be showing up in just a little while, and she's going to be part of my conversation. But I want to talk about something right now, which is, how is it that we know right from wrong? Even if we've been hurt, even if we've come from dysfunctional families, somehow inside of us, we know right from wrong. It may take a while to get there, but somewhere inside we know the truth. And all of the universal truths are preserved in each one of us. So lies and inaccuracies, we know we tell them and we feel them in other people, but they can't live long because ultimately the soul will reject them and we'll get caught. And lies require newer and newer masks. This is why there have been so many different social orders. From feudalism to communism to socialism to capitalism, we're trying to find the lost truth that we all feel is possible. And we feel this possibility in our souls. With the way the world and society is today, it seems that we're moving further and further away from truth. We can just look at our political system and what you think is true and I think is true and what the politicians think is true. It really seems to have nothing to do with truth. So why is it that we don't believe that the truth is hidden within us? Is it because it seems like it means we will have to change our lives to live in the truth? I think so. I think it's really, really challenging when we look at every single part of our lives. The truth strives to be seen every day. And we also have that opportunity every day. The eternity of nature shows itself to us each day as well. And the eternity of God's creation show themselves to us each day. Nature, the planets. Imagine a redwood seed. Imagine that all of the memory of how to become a tree lives in the center of the seed. And we all know this is true. It will become a beautiful tree just by being fed by dirt, sun, and water. A redwood tree doesn't become a rose or a lilac tree or a palm tree. When this tree creates new seeds, each of these will also become large redwoods. All the information it needs is stored in that tiny seed, just like the original. Now, the tree may not look like the original tree because of how much sun it got or how little or much water was received by it. But all the information that the Creator has put into the original seed is in all of the seeds, and the information never changes. So we're the same. That original information in being human and being divine is still in all of us. The original spark of the Creator, that brilliance and light is our birthright. And all of the prophets from Jesus to Zoroaster, Buddha, and backwards and forwards in time have said the same thing, that spark is there and that we are made in that image and likeness. So if we were created in the image and likeness of the divine, then that truth is in each of us. Even if it's covered up by social beliefs, rituals, fears, families. We may change the outside of the package, and we may change our beliefs because of the different people we are influenced by. But still, the truth remains. So how are we to discover this truth that has been instilled in us from conception? What method can we use to find the truth within? Well, for me, the way to find this truth is with our feelings. We have access to all of the information that's in the universe inside of us. So can you free yourself from beliefs that you have taken on or beliefs that you may have had imposed upon you? Most of our limited beliefs come from childhood and from, unfortunately, the people around us, our school, our families, society, and many of them have no idea that that's what's happening because it happened to them. We said yes to what they told us because we had to survive. So the way to know the truth is to use your feelings. So much information and so many truths have been changed over and over again to suit the needs of the culture. Many cultures completely destroyed the memories of their enemies by complete decimation of the people and the language. And we know that to be here in Hawaii, to be in Polynesia. I mean, it never got completely shut down, thank God. But in so many cultures, it was completely decimated. And it was used to control the people that were left. And then new stories were created so that the leaders would be obeyed. So every language has history within it just by the terminology that has been developed. When a new language is imposed upon a culture, like English upon the Hawaiians, and new interests are praised or debased, like science and religion, for example, this can control the thinking and feelings of the people. And this is still happening today through education in our schools. It happens all the time. We're being brainwashed to act nicely, that's in quotations, or correctly, to fit in and not even have original thoughts. Why else do children have to memorize so much information? But the word brainwashing, not just in education, but that word, I looked it up in the dictionary, and it's such an interesting word, to wash our brain. It means to make someone adopt radically different beliefs by using synthetic and often forcible pressure. The statement would be the organization could brainwash young people. Synonyms are indoctrinate, condition, re-educate, persuade, influence, propagandize, inculcate. The evidence is compelling that these cult members were indeed brainwashed. Brainwashing is the attempt to change the thoughts and beliefs of another person against their will. In psychology, the study of brainwashing is often referred to as thought reform, and it falls into the sphere of social influence. So the good thing is that the truth can never be lost. We wake up to feelings that we can't understand, and eventually these feelings will overcome us, and we will make changes in our life. Many times this happens at the end of our lives, but more often than not, we begin to feel the truth much earlier. We're being controlled by our fears. What if you knew there was nothing to fear? So I have with me now a new friend, and her name is Hilary. And she is someone who's actually had this happen to her. And it's a really powerful story, and I feel really blessed that she's come here, because when I heard the story, I realized this could happen to anyone. And that feeling of not having control because we're young or we believe in someone is really powerful. And Hilary's story has a really beautiful culmination. So, hi, Hilary.
Hello.
It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about just, how it started for you. What was going on a little bit in your life that you got taken to a place where this happened.
Yeah. So I grew up in a family that was pretty dense, vibrationally dense. I would say that my parents didn't have enough information to know how to communicate. They didn't know about their emotional bodies. They didn't know about their spiritual bodies. They're very, they from a very young age basically programmed me through their behavior, basically. And that's not to put any blame on anybody, because I take full responsibility for myself, and but it's just a part of the history and the story. And so I grew up as, pretty fragmented and in a lot of pain and not knowing how to communicate, and just started to act out. I was stuffing my feelings, and just started experimenting, and then by the time I was 15, my mom didn't really know what to do with me, and she was doing the best she could, and she ended up sending me to a lockdown behavior modification in Utah and I was there for 2 years.
And did you know that's where you were going?
I had no idea. A lot of people got escorted there, so they were basically kidnapped in the middle of the night and taken against their will and brought to this facility.
Right.
But I was tricked into going, and I couldn't even conceive of a place like this possibly existing. And so I was kind of baffled when I showed up at this strange facility in the middle of nowhere in southern Utah. And
you'd been told that you were going somewhere there was horseback riding.
Yeah, there was swimming, there was therapy, there was, blah, 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 all these great things. And, and I was just going to go look at this boarding school. And I ended up, they walked me in right away as soon as I got there, and began to tell me that I wasn't going to leave. And I asked to leave. My aunt was with me. She was crying, and she ended up leaving. And so I was there in just shock and trauma of just the situation. And
what did it look like, this place?
It was a box. It was a box. It was a 2-story white facility. And the inside, there were long hallways, and there was a section where there were classrooms. And the inside was, there was a boys' side and a girls' side with a big giant white fence separating the two. And so there was a basketball court on either side. And so you weren't allowed to engage with the opposite sex and even look at them. And so, yeah, that was the beginning of that.
And then what was the method of teaching that you got right away?
Well, it was deprivation. It was stripping you of everything you knew about yourself. And you're in a state where you're just so confused and so just, just unbelievably cannot believe that
right.
This
disoriented.
Is yeah, totally disoriented. And then all of a sudden, there's no way to communicate with your family. There's no way to get a hold of anybody. It's just like you're there. And so they immediately strip search. And so they, and I'm 15, and most of the people there that got sent, the girls were 15 and boys and around that age. And, and it's such a prime time in your life when you're trying to discover yourself.
Right,
and
right.
So there's just a fragment of knowing yourself. And so, yeah, and then they put you in a uniform and tell you all these rules and send you out into a group, and you're just expected to go along with the program, basically, and follow the rules the way that they have designed. And
so talk about the rules as you went on, because you were here for 2 years.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So talk about the rules and how that made you feel.
So there were 5 levels of consequences, and pretty much everything was a rule, like your shoes untied, you look at the boys, you say a swear word, just on and on. And
what would happen if you did any of that?
And so you would get a consequence, and each consequence was a points taken away. And so depending on the level of consequence you got and the level in order to get out of there, you had to work the system. So there were 6 levels, and you had to get to level 6. In order to get there, you had to earn a certain amount of points. You had to get staff support. You had to get family support. You had to get facility support, and, be working a good program, quote unquote. And so, and so it was very difficult. It was very, very difficult because everything was a rule, and I'm, not necessarily a rule follower by nature. And so I had a difficult time there, and most people do. Some people are really smart, and they are able to just completely follow the rules and get out as fast as they can. And, it's just not my way. So
what were some of the consequences that occurred besides the points if you did things?
Well, so you got points taken away if you got a consequence of a level 3 or higher, or if you got a numerous amount of second level consequences, then you would go into what was called the study hall, which was a little room that was basically you get put in an orange shirt, and all of your everything gets taken away. No shoes, no hair ties, no nothing. Basically just have a water bottle and they give you little pencils and you fill out tests all day long of just 100. They put these tapes on. It's called the tape room. And in order to get out of there, you have to do these tests, and each test is up to 3 points. So you're just in this tape room. I probably spent about 6 months of my life in this tape room.
All by yourself?
There's other people there.
Okay.
There were it was about a classroom size, give or take. Sometimes there were more, sometimes there were less, and people were there for different reasons. Some people just had a lot of behavior, quote unquote, issues, and so they would be there longer. And then if you got in trouble there, if you were just, really defiant, then they would take you and restrain you and take you to ISO, which is a little room, basically the size of a bathroom. It's really cold. They take all your sweatshirt off and your shoes, and you're not allowed to have anything. You can't talk. You can't do anything besides sit there. And if you don't sit there, then they have a big, ugly, mean-looking staff come in and restrain you and sit on you, and they keep you up there for a long time. So, yeah.
So it's not a really fun place.
No, not a fun place. And you don't get to talk to your friends. You don't get to talk to your family until you get to level 3. And once you're on level 3, then you get phone calls with your parents. But you have the therapist there in front of you. So
right. And you didn't get to talk to your family for how long?
I didn't talk to my mom. They did a surprise visit because I was, kind of stagnant, just not wanting to follow the rules and not wanting to go along with the program. And so they did a motivational visit after 6 months. And so I got to see my mom for a couple hours. And yeah.
Did you tell her what was going on, or could you?
By then I was, you can't, you're brainwashed. They immediately, every hour, every half hour is structured. So there's no time to think. There's no time to process. It's just constant information coming in, of how they want you to behave, how they want you to be. And it's so fear-based that,
can you give us an example?
Well, just the fact of getting in trouble, and everybody is encouraged to tell on you. So it's like you're looked at, better if you tell on people and if you narc on people, basically. And so you're just in a state of fear, and you're constantly being watched. And
right. So you get points for all this. It keeps you going to all those other levels that you want to get out.
You want to get out. I mean,
right.
That's your main goal, and that's there's only one way to get out, and unless you...
And that's to follow the rules.
You got to follow the rules.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you weren't really able to talk to your mom about that at that time?
Not at that time, no. And then immediately they start in on, that your parents saved your life. You were going down a path that was going to kill you, and your parents sent you here, and they're your saviors, basically. And this is they say it's non-denominational, but that's just to cover themselves. It's a Mormon-based facility, and it was a corporation that was based in St. George, Utah, which had multiple facilities all over. They had them in the U.S., and then they also had them in Costa Rica, in Mexico, in Jamaica, and these
right.
different
So you could
areas.
go to these really beautiful places and go into a big white box.
Exactly.
Right,
yeah. And they all got shut down by the FBI for child abuse. And except for this one that I was at in Utah, because the people that were running the facility, they were giving politicians millions of dollars. It's to keep electing the same people to allow this to happen in that state.
Wow. Do you think your mom really knew what this was when she picked it?
No, she had no idea. She thought this was, going to help me. There was therapy. I was in a safe environment where I would be watched. And, she, bless her heart and her soul, she did not know she was not shown how to be a good parent, because she did not have good parents, and down the line. Right. So I came from a lineage of, pretty dysfunctional families.
Right. And I really feel like so oftentimes we don't know what that actually really means when let's say as a parent, you can't control your kid, and you can see that they're, turning into drugs or to alcohol or to, stealing things or whatever, and you don't know what to do. And so then you just give it away to somebody else to help you fix your child. This is not an easy thing. This is not an easy choice. And Hilary is talking about her experience. So what happened the second year? Because this has a really happy ending in this story.
Well, the second year was very much like the first. Every single day was the exact same. It was like
so this wasn't a school like you were there all the time.
All the time, yeah.
365 days. Right?
Never really left. When you eventually get on a upper phase, then you go on passes, and you're able to leave the facility for a few hours and then come back. And but they make sure you're well brainwashed before that happens.
Right. And are you taking classes? Are you studying? So you're still going to be a sophomore or junior?
Yeah, the school was like so absurd. They had teachers there that just sat in desks, and there were bookshelves with all these books, and it was self. You
like
homeschool kind of, right. Yeah, but the books were way outdated. You'd go through the chapters, take the chapter quizzes, then turn in the chapter quizzes, then take the midterm, then take the final, and then you're done with that grade or that class. I mean,
right.
And so it was ridiculous. And if you don't pass, then you just retake it. So one of their main things was like, oh, your kid is going to get, above a 3.0, and because, yeah,
they're forced to.
You're forced to, yeah.
Right. So. Right. So what happened for you? Like, how were you when you came out now? So now you've succeeded going through all the levels.
Yeah.
And what happened? And how did you feel?
Well, I was extremely brainwashed. I was extremely traumatized. I had been through so much conditioning and I went in when I was 15, and I was already very fragmented, just immature and in so many ways. And I left when I was a month away from turning 18. So I was still just at this really young juvenile place in my mind and of understanding life. And it didn't help that I was, programmed and in this facility for 2 years. And so reality just came crashing down on me. And I was like, what they're telling me and what's happening aren't meeting up, and I don't know how to navigate anything. I don't know how to navigate in the world. I don't know what I want. I don't know, so I was conditioned to look outside of myself for, some parental guidance to tell me how life is or how to operate and, how to do, just basic things. Like, we weren't even able to go to the bathroom without asking for permission. So it's like, we'd be home, and this is speaking for other girls too. The same thing happened with them. They'd be like, I have to go to the bathroom, and they're so conditioned to asking for permission. It was like, we forgot, like, you're free, you're at home, you can do whatever you want, basically, but, and I was paranoid. I thought my mom had hired, the limo, the Lincoln Town cars with the numbers on them, that they were following me and making sure that I was behaving properly, or, and I had nightmares of getting sent back. And for a long time, I just really traumatized. So.
And then what helped you to step out of that? I mean, because that's like having PTSD.
Oh, yeah.
So were you aware of that was what was going on, or did that take you time also?
It took me time to understand. I didn't know there's also like a Stockholm syndrome, which is like when you relate to your captors. So when you're there, it's like your therapist and your family rep become like your parents, and you're like, you find comfort in this facility telling you what to do all the time, and you don't have to make a choice. It's just everything's programmed for you. So you lose your will, and you don't even really understand what that is in the first place. And
until you're out and having to use it, and you don't have it.
Yeah. And so what I've learned just recently, even, it's like, your will is the most powerful thing that you have, which is your ability to choose. And through life and circumstances and society and, these programs that are being operated against us, against our, our human nature, they're taking away your will, and you get complacent, and you start to, go along with the program and, oh, this is it. And then, it's just constantly looking outside of yourself for the answers. And so I started to really delve deep into myself, and I was not okay with the way that I was feeling, and, was really seeking help. And luckily for me, I, was able to ask for help, and that's a huge thing. So
Hilary, when you knew, that you needed to change again, that the way you were feeling is not how you wanted to feel. How did you go about it?
Every way I possibly could. And I tried, it's just this constant chipping away at this block of ice, to unfreeze myself. And, I was really locked up inside, and this lockdown facility that I was in was just a physical manifestation of what was going on inside of me. And it was a progression of just constantly taking responsibility for myself and my life, and not placing any blame on anyone or anything. It's just circumstance, this is the times that we're living in. And, realizing that, my human nature, we are all divine beings, and that, we all have a purpose, and our life is meaningful to the degree of which we place the meaning on it. And that's a blessing in itself too, because, it's Alan Watts kind of says, like, life is meaningless. It's totally meaningless. It's you that gets to place the meaning on it, and so you get to choose, you get to decide, like, where you want to go with this. And, I wanted to free myself. I wanted to free myself of these chains and these feelings that just had me locked up, and I could just taste this little seed inside of me that just wanted to burst. And
So you had gone from what you thought was freedom to being completely contained, and then realizing you were completely contained and having to get out again and be who you are. So how did your relationship with your mom evolve? Okay, she didn't know it was this intense. Yeah. And did she let you explain it to her, and did she believe you, or how did that transform?
She had a really hard time hearing me in the beginning, and she didn't want to hear it. She didn't want to hear that she had hurt me even further, and she really blamed herself for a lot of things, but it was so painful for her to see and feel those things about her choices and about her past. I think I was a huge reflection through my behavior and who I was, that it was a powerful mirror for her. And
was she willing to look?
Slowly, very slowly. And it was only up until this past few years, and up until this last winter, that we've really transformed our relationship. And, it's been a slow process, but you just hold steady, and you never give up on people. You never give up.
And you were 18 when you got out, and you're 32. So you've done a lot of amazing work to be able to get to this place that you can talk about it in this way, that you're not judging your mom, you're not judging the experience. So you've done a lot of deep work. Yeah.
It's forced me to really look at myself and really look at my choices and my behaviors and the society and how we're growing up and what is happening right now, and how can I make a difference? How can I just make this better for one person, just one person.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah, service.
So that's what's come out of this. You're clearing with your mom and your ability to see the world in a different way.
Yeah.
So if you had stayed on the same track, do you think you would be here the same way? Or be here the same way, same thing in a different way?
I don't know. That's hard. That's really hard to say. You never know. This. I definitely signed up for the fast track. Mm-hmm. I came here to change a lot. And yeah, I cannot answer that question. I have no idea. I'm here, and I'm super grateful for every experience that I've had, and in order to get out of the trauma of the situation, I really looked for the blessing, because in each painful situation, there is a massive blessing there waiting for you. And so if you can,
there's a gift.
There is such a gift. And if you can just detach yourself from the feelings of being wrong or being victimized or, you know, poor me or all of these things, and those are important too. But eventually, you've got to grow up and you've got to reach beyond those thoughts and those patterns.
Right.
And
that's what we talk about a lot here.
Yeah.
You know, because we think if we don't have, you know, like a horrible life, we think that we're doing it perfectly. But if we're still angry and we're still reactive and we're still victimized, which all of us are at different times with different people, and usually the people that are closest to us. So if we can get to that place of non-judgment with ourselves, like you didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
We call these things to us to learn something that perhaps not until it's over will we know anything about it.
Yeah, and there, you know, moving out of duality, trying to perceive a reality where there is no right and wrong, there is no good and bad. It's a middle line. It's a fine line. It's a tightrope walk sometimes. And and to just take responsibility. And the other thing that has really, really helped me is to see everything, how everything is here to serve you. And so even if it's a painful situation, even if it just shatters you, or if it throws you off your track, or, you know, just these little things that that can be big, feel big sometimes, it's serving you in some way.
Right.
And when you fully take responsibility and say, how is this serving me? And understanding, like, that there is a gift inside of this. Like, maybe it's to make a different choice.
Right. The world may seem gray, but all you have to do is pick up the brush that's on that palette of incredible colors and see and paint your life in a different color. Even though the circumstances may stay the same, how you perceive it is what the gift is.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it just takes a little shift. That's all it takes.
Well, and sometimes a lot of time.
Yeah, and time.
Yeah, but we're really blessed. And I so appreciate that you came in today, because when I woke up this morning going, okay, what am I going to do my show about? I don't know, and I started writing, it was like, oh, I have the perfect person that can really show us how you go from one way all the way to another, you know, from not understanding to completely understanding it at such a high level. So I just want to thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.